Module 6, Project Planning and Cost Calculation. So we did come up now with a solution idea, but how much should this cost? And what should be the selling price to a customer? Best thing to do is to create a high-level project plan and use that as basis to analyze our cost. So that's what we will do in this module. What is a project? Project has an objective to create something, to fulfill the objectives the customer has for that project. You want to be spot on, exactly deliver what the customer wants, so meet your targets. You need to deliver that within an agreed timeline, the timeline the customer is expecting, a timeline which is realistic for the number of tasks which need to be done. And you want to stay in budget. You have estimated at the beginning how much your project will cost. You have defined the selling price based on that. Of course, you should stick to your budget, otherwise your profit margin is gone. You might be even at a loss. So basically we want to answer following questions with constructing project plan. What do you want to deliver? When should it be ready? And how much should it cost? And project management is the formal art of managing projects and trying to reach those 3 targets. Now, what should be the selling price for our project? How can we discover that? You do not always need to design a project plan and do bottom-up costing. Sometimes you're lucky. If you have done similar projects in the past, almost the same content, then it makes sense to have a look at the costs you incurred in those previous projects, the selling price you used, check what the risks were, if those risks became a reality, so really happened, and how the profit and loss status was of those projects. And then correct for what you learned, correct for inflation. Is the scope exactly the same for your current project as for that past one? Is this project the same complexity or more complicated or easier than those with which you are comparing? And adapt. So you can just base your selling price on similar projects. When is this done? Well, for example, if your consulting activity is to come up with a business plan, you might have delivered this service already tens of times to other customers. So you know exactly how much effort setting up a business plan is. You are experienced in it. And then it certainly makes sense to look at the typical fees you were asking in the past for this. But there is another way of doing this, a more exact way, doing it bottom-up. In the bottom-up approach, you try to list all the activities which needs to be done, and you come up with what is called work breakdown structure, WBS. So that's just a list of activities, and this list of activities is then typically placed on a timeline, resulting in what is called a Gantt chart. And you see here below an example of such a Gantt chart on the time axis on the top. How does this help you to discover the cost? Well, what you now should do is take each task, it has a certain duration, discover which profiles of people you need, what is their salary rate to fulfill this particular task. Estimate the number of hours they need to work on it. Add that up. So you do something like my labor rate, let's say it's 60 euro, times the duration in hours of the task, let's say it's 40 hours, multiplied with the percentage of time you will be spending on this task during that duration. For example, 50%. So you will work half time during that duration of 40 hours on that task. So that means that this person then will work actually 20 hours on that task taking 40 hours. Multiply that with his labor rate, for example 60 euros. And you have the labor cost to be allocated to that task for that person. One task can of course have multiple profiles of people all assisting to the completion of that task, so you need to add that all in. You can also have other costs, like you might need material, you might need software licenses, you might have travel cost associated to this particular task. Well, again, add them up and add them to the labor cost. And this will give you the total cost for this particular task. Now, repeat this work for all the tasks you have. And this will give you the full total cost of your project. It's quite simple. To give you the full picture then of what you should charge to your customer, well, you should decide on the margin you want. The formula to come from cost to go from cost to selling price is total cost divided by 1 minus your engagement margin. For example, your engagement margin is 30%, so it's then 1 minus 0.3. But you would make an error if this would just be your selling price. You're forgetting something. Things can go wrong in your project. There are risks associated with your projects. You are not taking into account those risks in your cost structure. So you will have to add a risk budget. How you come to the risk budget will be covered in the next class. So cost divided by 1 minus engagement margin plus your risk budget will give you your selling price. And that's what we want to figure out by building our high-level project plan, which is the topic of this module. Thank you.